Hello, loyal Player 2 Press Start listeners. I am Killagreg. You can find me at killagreg17. Dan had some personal things to take care of this week, so unfortunately we were not able to record our Left 4 Dead episode, which I am sure you're all very upset about. So, the good news is, once again, you get the next episode of our Halo retrospective. This week, we're going to talk about Halo 3, which I think out of all the Halo games is probably the worst, but we'll get into that on the podcast. I will remind you that the Halo retrospective was going to be our first episode, but it ran really long, and at the end of the day, it wasn't quite what we were going for with the theme of the podcast. So it's not totally indicative of our normal episode. If this is your first episode, I suggest going back and listening to some of the other ones, specifically the Army of Two episode. That is a real good one. You can find me at killagreg17. You can find Dan at the Polygon1 on the Twitter. You can find both of us at Player2, PLAYRTWO. And if you want to leave us some feedback, or you just want to have a little bit more of a visual experience for the Player 2, you can check out our website, player2pressstart.com. Here it is, kids, Halo 3.
So, Halo 3 is coming out, and we didn't touch much on this with Halo 2. We'll get back to it later. But the marketing for Halo 3...
Bananas.
Bananas.
I
saw somewhere it was like $10 million for just the commercials. Not even like all the extra stuff. But I'm going to preface this with Halo 3 was a big disappointment for me.
Yeah,
and I think in a weird way, it's because of how stellar the marketing was.
Yeah, it hyped it.
There was a commercial called. There was a series of commercials called Believe. One of them was very specific though. It was about 3 minutes long. It was like it was this old man soldier, supposed to be from the future, walks into a museum, and there's this giant diorama depicting a
battle between
the
humans and the Covenant.
Huge battle between the humans and the Covenant. And basically this guy was a soldier. He was remembering this battle he was in. It's got this slow, sad music going on and these extreme close-ups of this diorama, and it's stunning. It's just so beautiful. The commercial is, I mean, have you ever seen a better commercial than that?
No.
And
for a video game?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And then at the very end, it pans up. Honestly, this is 2 minutes commercial, and they show the diorama of a Master Chief being held up by like the scruff of his neck by a brute.
Yeah.
And then it like pans down to his hand, and you see a grenade in his hand. And then the diorama is like very, very briefly comes alive. Like the grenade glows, and the Master Chief looks up, and just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot wait for this.
Yeah.
This is going to be the craziest thing in the history of the world. And this was going to be the first one on the 360. 360 had so much processing power. It was going to blow the door. There's going to be giant effing battles in Halo 3. Just like this diorama.
Yeah. That didn't happen.
Nothing in that commercial happened.
The closest that Halo 3 gets to those kind of situations are... I remember there's like a deserty, sandy level where you're in like a brute chopper, I think, and you're kind of like zipping around. But like in typical Halo fashion, you don't end up ever having that big, huge battle you want.
Never.
It's always skirmish. It's like little area, and maybe that's, they can't handle that many polygons at once. But
that's Halo. But I felt like I was promised one thing.
You're expecting an epic, like a war, not a battle.
And that's exactly it. He's like, I'm going to finish the fight. Then you get these awesome commercials where, boy, how is he finishing the fight? and it looks like he's going to commit suicide. Like, it almost seems like they're giving the end of the game away. Like, he blows up the head brute with a grenade, and everybody dies, and the Halos are solved.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, like, Halo 3 came out, and I'm like, all right, when are we getting to that point? When are we getting to that point? All right, hasn't happened yet. Boy, this is going to be so great. Credits. All right, is there anything after the credits? When are we getting to that battle? Halo Reach comes out 5 years later.
So we have mentioned here that we do not like the Flood.
No, they're the worst.
Which is funny because they're essentially zombies, and we like a number of zombie games.
We do play a lot of zombie games.
But boy, do we hate the Flood.
They're the worst.
I mean, I think at this point you've influenced me a little bit to be biased against them, but they're just not. If Bungie was trying to make an enemy that I do not like, they succeeded. Like,
Yeah.
if they really wanted it to be a crappy, annoying, frustrating, tedious enemy, that is the Flood. And this game has the worst Flood level of the entire series.
Of all time.
And they make it even worse. But I mean, this has nothing to do really with the co-op experience, but this is just so bad we have to talk about it. I don't know the name of the level, but it's the one where you're inside that, like...
I think it's called Cortana.
Okay. You know what? I think you're right. And you're trying to rescue Cortana from the grave mind, right? Isn't that what you're doing? It's not the
Sure.
mission?
I don't know.
Sure. We'll pretend it is. And both the grave mind and Cortana talk to you, and when they do that, you go into this, like, telescopic vision thing, and it slows down.
And it slows you down.
Yes, and you can't move. It's like walking through, like, molasses. It's impossible.
It's impossible.
And it's like you don't want to be slowed down. And there's no real reason to even do it. It could just happen while you're running. Like, they could just have a long area that you have to get through. I would prefer that. It's like, I don't even listen to what's happening. I just want to move away from the slowness.
Yeah, you can't even hear what's going on over the screams that you're yelling at your television.
Yeah.
This is legitimate.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm yelling at the TV.
This is true, people.
And it's like, it's the worst level in all of Halo. I mean, the entire series. It is the worst level.
It looks like being inside of a dirty beehive.
Yeah, it looks like a butt. I mean, like a lot of butts. Like a million butts. And
Like,
then sometimes the butts come alive and shoot at you.
Like dirty butts inside of a dirty beehive filled with mushrooms.
And then you're stuck in it with some people talking to you, and you don't even know what's going on.
In slow motion.
In slow motion. It's the worst.
It's
the worst.
anti-fun.
It's anti-fun. The only fun that comes out of it is when you're playing with a friend and you get to make fun of it the whole time.
Pretty much. Here's the best part. Greg, for years, has thought that he did not have the skull for this level. And I've offered more than once to help him find it.
Many times.
So playing through this time around, we did that. Just so we would kind of like refresh on how much we hated this level. Turns out he had the skull already.
Yeah, I had it the whole time.
So we went through all that effort for nothing.
For
We
years.
played that level again for nothing.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
So, Halo 3 single player, Halo 3 campaign cooperative. Thoughts?
I don't remember it.
It really it doesn't. It's not distinct. It's very much like in line with Halo 1 and Halo 2.
Yeah, I don't remember it at all.
They added more to it. Like, I know the big thing in Halo 2 was dual wielding. Like, that was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
That was incredible. In this one, like, they added more guns. They added weird grenades. That was this one, right? Where they started out like the other types of stuff.
They had like the pin grenade.
Yeah, you didn't have the superpowers yet, like the jetpack or the fast running and stuff. That was Reach. But too many bugs. Those stupid bugs are just a pain in the ass. I hate them.
I actually
Not as
played
much
most of
Blood,
this
though.
game co-op. However, the only thing I take out of this game is it was just long. And it would just contrast interestingly to a point you made because you thought it was really short.
I think I've always found, especially for this one, I mean, I think Halo has their general plot for each game is very simple, but level to level they are very confusing. And I think this one probably more so than any, because you've got the arc, but then that takes you to The other thing takes you to another area, which is actually the Ark.
I know this game and I just don't know. You're on High Charity. High Charity is the ship.
That's like the Covenant City ship, right?
Yeah, and inside the city ship is that key, that Forerunner ship. That is the key to getting to the Ark.
And that's what you're on at the end of Halo 2.
And that's what you're on at the end of Halo 3. Oh, you're on that ship. Yes, you're on that ship coming off of High Charity.
Right.
So you take that ship and you go to the Ark. The Ark is where the Halo rings are made. And it is also outside, I believe, the Halo array's firing power.
Did you remember all this, or did you have to look this up?
No, I remember all this.
Okay, good for you, because I definitely don't. I mean, I don't have the greatest memory, but like I could pretty well tell you the story for Halo 1.
Right.
And Halo Reach.
Right.
But man, 2 and 3 I just get sort of gummed up.
And I guess this is a good point to bring this up. As the games become more and more cooperative, I feel like the story gets lost.
Yeah, Halo 4 is a good example of that.
Yeah. Because how many times are you and I were playing a game and there's a cutscene playing and we're not even paying attention to it. We're just jib-jabbing. We're talking about whatever. We're talking about our day. We're talking about, what's going on around us, all this stuff. We're talking about how stupid everything looks in the game. You know what I mean?
We're making fun of it.
Yeah, like we'll be making fun of the game and they'll be like, oh, wait a minute, what just happened?
Yeah, like somebody's talking and you realize, and it's like, I already missed all that.
So then, I guess my question is, does cooperative play improve or hinder a campaign? This is something I will bring up again next week, or possibly 2 weeks from now.
I think it is more fun to play with someone, but I think, especially when it's like somebody that's a good friend who you joke around with and you're talking to, as opposed to just whoever on the internet. I think it hinders because I think inherently you're not paying as much attention. Like when it's just you and it's a cutscene, there's literally nothing else for you to do but pay attention.
Right.
I mean, unless you're checking your email or something on your phone or whatever, like you're probably just sitting there watching it, unfold. So I think it's easier when you're by yourself, maybe, to pay a little bit more attention to the story.
Right.
But this one was confusing.
Along the same lines, I really dislike first-person storytelling in games. As in, the story is happening while you're playing. And Halo does that a lot.
Yeah.
And I noticed, I never even noticed that until you and I were playing Anniversary.
Okay.
And you were telling me all this stuff. You were like, oh, the faux hammer is going to do this, or, and like you knew the name of the person piloting the, was it faux hammer? Is that right?
Oh, that's her call sign.
That's her call sign.
I think so.
Okay. I didn't even know these characters. Like, you were talking about these characters, you were talking about what was going on and all this stuff. I never even seen that.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, whenever that stuff was happening, I must have always been looking the other direction. So storytelling while the player has autonomy, I think is a bad game design choice.
I guess I commend them for their effort to integrate the two, but I think it's difficult to, when the player's doing one thing, like playing the level, moving around, getting attacked or defending or shooting or just exploring, I think it's hard for them to also at the same time focus on the story. And this is something we're definitely running into with Dead Space 3.
Yes.
Which we'll
save
into
that
in a future
conversation.
episode. But actually, I had a point which we sort of got away from, but I want to get back to, which is you thought the game was really long.
Yeah.
I thought the game was really short. But I think what this comes, I think really what this is kind of two sides of the same coin. I think the game itself, I mean, play-wise, I think it's pretty short. But I think the story is so convoluted. I think that's maybe why you're thinking it's long.
Maybe. I just...
Like, I didn't get Halo 3 until long after it came out. I had a sort of a break from... I didn't get the 360 for a while, so I had a break from the Halo series. And then it came out, and I was sort of on my own to play it. for a while, and I remember breezing through it so fast. And I remember people complaining about it too online, like when it first came out, because I was, I didn't have it, but I was still following the news and stuff because I was curious about it. And people complained about like how short the campaign was, and really, it was just almost an excuse just to have the multiplayer, the online multiplayer, which is starting to become a much more common theme with online multiplayer games like Battlefield, for example. Which
Call of Duty
has never, it's never had a stellar story, but
they're trying.
They're pretty weak sauce, and it's simply a throw-in to add some value to it, but really you're there for the multiplayer, and I think Halo 3 was kind of the start of that.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
To some degree, anyway.
I just remember not wanting
the start of that for the Halo series.
Yes, absolutely. I didn't want to finish Halo 3. Like I wanted to finish it to finish the fight because Master Chief promised me. But like, by the time the flood come at the end and you're just doing all this stuff, and I remember the last level mimics the last level of Halo 1, where it's like everything's blowing up around you and you're piloting the Jeep and all this stuff. And it's just long and tedious and horrible. And by the time I got to there, I almost gave up. I almost gave up just like in the last 30 seconds of the game, literally. Like I just didn't want to do it anymore. I was exhausted. I was exhausted by Halo by the time that last level happened.
What happens at the end of Halo 3?
You fire off the ring that you created with the arc, blowing up that ring and I think the other rings? Possibly?
Very memorable.
Yes. And it explodes and then you drive away on a Jeep, just like the end of the first one. A Warthog, I'm sorry. I know what I'm talking about.
How do you end up at space? By yourself?
Explosion? You get in a ship. The ship takes off. I think the ship gets cut in half. Half of it goes back to Earth. The other half gets transported out into the middle of nowhere.
How did that happen? I think we need to watch that cutscene again to really understand fully what's going on.
See, we don't even know what happened.
Yeah. It doesn't stick with you. That's the problem.
Right, and that's a shame. So let's switch over to multiplayer, because
you, I think, played more of this than I did.
I played the crap out of this.
Because I was late to this one, so this was really not the multiplayer game.
I played a lot of Halo 2 and 3 multiplayer because I'm a big online gamer. So the most important thing about Halo 2 was the matchmaking. It's perfect. Like they nailed it right out of the box, and they even got it right with Halo 2. But Dan and I are avid Battlefield players. I mean, God, between Battlefield 3 and 4, we've probably logged 300 hours, maybe more, honestly.
Which, compared to some people, is a drop in the bucket.
Well,
which is frightening.
That's true, but it's ridiculous, and
it's kind of our go-to game.
It is kind of our go-to.
It was Borderlands for a long time, but I think Battlefield has usurped it.
Yeah, I agree. Battlefield is a mess. Halo 3 came out when? 2007? Look that up for me, please.
I don't know. I'm on it.
I think it came out in 2007. And they just nailed it. They nailed it. You could group up. You could go about maps. You could pick what maps you want to play. You never had problems finding a game.
September 2007.
September 2007. All right. It was great. Battlefield still can't get that right. It's 7 years later.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It worked better in a previous game.
Yeah. It worked better in Battlefield 3. And it worked better in Bad Company 2.
The games get worse.
Battlefield games do get worse.
The graphics get better. The games get worse.
I would even debate that the graphics get better. I think 3 looked much better than 4, and I think Bad Company looked much better than 3.
Really?
Yes, but I'm also a Bad Company apologist. That's my go-to Battlefield.
I think we're gonna have to have a Battlefield episode.
We will. So, no matter what you think about Halo 3 multiplayer in general, it's wonderful. If you think different, you're an idiot. It just has to be said how wonderful their matchmaking was. And considering they're a Microsoft-owned company, I don't understand why they can't just use that infrastructure for everything. Do you have any insight on that?
As I said, I got Halo 3 pretty late. I got Halo 3 and ODST at the same time. And ODST was like on a disc with another game. So I guess it had already been out as well. I think actually, I guess I got them in like fall of 2010. I think is when I got my my Xbox 360. So that's when I started playing Halo 3 and ODST, and I pretty much breezed through both of them. I have a lot of thoughts on ODST, which are going to have to wait for the next episode.
That's the next episode.
But this one, I didn't do much of the multiplayer. I feel like we didn't play much of it together.
No, not really, because by the time
You were kind of out of it at that point, right? On to other games.
Yeah, I forget what I was on to.
Did you not have it? Is that maybe you had traded it in or something?
No, I had it because I had it on ODST.
Okay.
ODST shipped with Halo 3 multiplayer and all the maps.
Right.
So I definitely had ODST. I might not have had Halo 3.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't have a lot of thoughts. It's not very memorable for me because I didn't play very much of it. Just one quick note: the Halo Reach came out in September of 2010, which was not long after I actually got the 360, made my way through Halo 3 and Halo ODST. So that's why I didn't really play much of it, because we moved on to Reach so quickly.
That makes sense. I remember that. I remember there was a reason we didn't play it, because I had dropped it. I had dropped Halo 3, moved on to Bad Company 2, I think. And you were like, hey, let's go play this. And I remember coming back and just being almost out of place. There was all these new maps and all these customizable maps and all these new game types, and my rank had been reset, which really upset me. So I just remember...
I hate when they take fake video game stuff away from you.
Yeah, right?
And I'm not being sarcastic.
Yeah, me neither.
Like, if you lose achievements or, like... I remember I lost my game for The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Like, it was, it's stored on the cartridge back then. And I was like, I totally lost it.
Right. I hate that. There's no way to get it back. And that was something silly. They just reset the servers on people or whatever.
Yeah.
But I knew there was a reason we didn't play for long. Both I didn't have the gusto for it, and Reach did come out so soon.
And we'll have a lot to say about Reach.
So my 2 points about the Halo multiplayer, one is sort of meta and one is Halo specific. I mentioned when we talked about Halo 2 how me and my friends, we got together, we bought Halo at midnight, we went back to our friend's house, 4 of us sat down, we played it until the sun came up. It was awesome.
It was an experience.
It was an awesome experience. I remember the Halo 3 launch for being literally the exact opposite. Me and the same friends, we stood in the same line for Halo 3. We got our game, and then we got in our car and we drove home. I remember because I got pulled over for having a headlight out. And then, an hour after we bought the game, we all got on Xbox Live and we played until the sun came up. But that camaraderie was gone.
Because you weren't in the same room.
We weren't in the same room. It wasn't that party atmosphere. And, maybe we're growing up. When Halo 2 came out, that was, what did we say, 2004?
Yes.
So I was 20.
2004, then 2007, and then 2010.
Right. There's a big difference between 20 and 24. 20 is still at that age where you can get some friends together, have a few drinks, you don't mind crashing on the floor, so on and so forth. 24 is a little different, whereas you go home.
Like you want to sleep in your bed.
You want to be in your bed. You probably have something mature to do the next day. Not me, normally, but theoretically, you have something to do the next day. You don't want to be up all night at your friend's house. You want to be home, comfortable, and in bed.
Yeah.
But I feel like, again, Halo 2 was the end of... Halo 2 into Halo 3 was the exact valley between having an experience with your friends, literally with your friends, and just having an experience with your friends.
And I haven't had too many launch day experiences. I don't tend to do it. I've been more inclined to buy things online and get same day delivery, things like that.
You usually only do it when I essentially force you to one way or another.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. Halo Reach was one of them, wasn't it?
Reach was one. Borderlands was one.
What game was it that totally effed me over? Was it Reach? It might have been... Was it Reach?
I don't know.
There was some game. Remember I ordered it from Walmart because I waited too long and then I couldn't get
it.
It
was Mass Effect.
It was Mass Effect. Oh, that was the worst. It would be more fun if you're gonna stay up until midnight, get a game, then hang out and play the game. It's gonna be more fun in a group.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be as like you get home, you get the thing unwrapped, you get your stupid codes entered in because you gotta enter codes. Everybody's trying to get on, and it's like it's really more tedious. Like you just want to get the game and go home and go to sleep.
Right, or play alone.
Like you don't have like the motivation to stay up and fart around at like realistically 1:30 in the morning to be playing this.
Right.
Like it's just to do it over Xbox Live is just not as much fun. Like as a typical general multiplayer experience, Xbox Live is good, but not for launch day stuff.
It enables more general play with your friends, but it destroys that launch day excitement, I would say.
Yeah.
And then
even for something like Halo, which that's the flagship of Xbox, and even that can't keep the launch. I mean, I'm sure plenty of people would argue with us because Halo was massively successful, but I think we raise a good point. I mean, there's telephonic communication is not the same as being in the same room with your friends.
Yes. I mean, even bringing this to a very personal level, we've recorded podcasts over Skype, and it's just not as much fun.
No.
It's a little more awkward. It's harder to do. You have to pay more attention to cues that like audible cues than verbal cues. It's just better to have a personal experience, I think, most of the time.
Yeah.
And there's no way to replicate that.
No.
So my last point about Halo 3 multiplayer was this is where I first started to notice a sort of Halo bloat. Like Halo 1 and 2 multiplayer was basically there was nothing really special in it. It was just the regular guns, regular grenades, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean the only real difference in 2 is that now you've got dual wielding, so that adds a new dynamic to it.
But dual wielding generally sucked in multiplayer.
It did, unless you got one of those really good combinations of like a Covenant weapon and a human weapon. But
Plasma pistol SMG was pretty nasty.
Yeah, other than that.
So Halo, and I understand the desire, you gotta give them something new. You can't just give them more of the same. It can't be Halo plus. It has to be Halo and. So in Halo 3, you start getting removable turrets. There's
which I hate.
You get the bubble shield, you get the force drain, you get all this stuff. There's a million weapons.
And there's all these different grenades.
Yeah, there's
and switching you never throw the right grenade.
Never. There's just it's just starting to creep in as we get into Halo 3. By Halo Reach doesn't.
Reach is such a good game, you almost give it a pass on some of this.
By the time we get to 4, it is ridiculous.
Yeah.
There is just so much everything. It's a different game. It's not Halo anymore. It's something else. It's something else entirely.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. But as we talk about it, this is that turning point. This is that turning point where Halo starts to just become more, and in my opinion, just started to become a little too much.
I would agree.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I have one little sort of side point about the Arbiter, which I think is worth mentioning. So they introduce him in 2. He's a pretty major character in 2. Whether he's important or not is another story, but they put a lot of attention on him. You play as him. I mean, you've never done that in any other game. Well, I mean, Reach aside. Well, ODST aside, too. In the regular okay, this is a horrible point. In the regular series, you're almost always playing as the Master Chief. Right. They don't take that control away and give it to somebody else.
At this point, in 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He becomes marginalized in 3. Like, he's there, but who cares?
Yeah, nobody.
Like,
I don't even remember him past the first level.
I don't either. I mean, honestly, I really don't.
And we just replayed a level where one of us was the Arbiter.
Yeah, and you don't play as him. I mean, if you're doing co-op, but he's like
he doesn't have any solo missions.
No,
like
he doesn't.
Too.
And he just gets increasingly marginalized, and now, I mean, you could argue that he's not included in the series because it wasn't appropriate for ODST. It wasn't appropriate for Reach because that was a prequel. It wasn't appropriate for 4 because it's the Master Chief on his own somewhere else. If they wanted to incorporate him somehow, they could have, and they've abandoned him. I think it's unlikely we're going to see him again.
I'm fine with that,
and I'm fine with that too. He's not an enjoyable character. I just think it's kind of funny how they put all this effort to bring him into the series, drag him along for 3, and then just sort of throw him to the wolves. So, general thoughts on the Halo 3 multiplayer. Co-op and multiplayer, I enjoyed it. I thought the game was kind of short.
There is no but.
There's
no but. Halo 3 is a but. It is but.
Okay.
I think it's just the worst. I don't know. I mean, I like it. It's a fine game. But, like, as far as all the Halo games go, this would be my last one to play. By a long shot.
Halo 3?
Halo 3. I would rather play, if I had to pick any multiplayer, I'd pick Halo 2. If I had to play any Halo, I'd pick probably 1 or Reach. In Halo 1, I have levels I'd love to play. I'd love to play Silent Cartographer. Greg, do you want to play Silent Cartographer right now? Yes, I do. I want to play Delta Halo. Greg, what level in Halo 3 do you want to play?
Not Cortana?
Not Cortana. Honestly, that is my answer. I don't really want to play Halo 3, but if we have to, just don't pick Cortana. That's all I'm asking you. Just don't do that. That's my response to Halo 3. I don't want to, but if I have to, don't pick that really crappy one.
Yeah.
Pick the one with the least amount of flood.
So, our general kind of rambling point here is Halo 1, 2, and 3, they do have a lot of similarities, but they also have very distinct differences which separate them out. But I think those 3 as kind of a set, or as a trilogy, they're very close-knit, whereas next week's episode, or whenever the next episode is released, we're going to be covering ODST, Reach, Halo 4, and we're also going to
talk about Halo Wars.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Halo Wars a little bit, and
very briefly.
Yeah.
We don't have much to say about it.
No, not really.
Watch, we're going to ramble for like 6 hours on Halo Wars.
Probably. But I mean, those ODST, Reach, and 4 together. Not that they make a trilogy, but those 3, separate from these 3, are just so different, and each one is so distinct for so many reasons.
Yes, they are all individual from each other, and they are all individual from this essential trilogy, the real Halo trilogy.
Yeah.
Very briefly, can I just say how awful all of the box art is for Halo, except for Reach?
I like the anniversary box art. It's very classy.
That's classy. That's different, though. That's like hey, here's a bone, guys. Halo 1 looks really dumb.
Yeah, it does.
Halo 2 looks awful. It looks like a screenshot, not even like...
I don't remember what it is.
Halo 3
actually,
looks terrible.
I guess I had the instruction book in there. That would have it on it, but I've got the metal case for the collector's set.
Oh, yeah. No, look at the instruction manual. It's bad.
I'll have to look at Reach, too. What is it for Reach?
Reach is just all of the Spartans like walking like the right stuff style.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Actually, that I had not like the super collector's edition that came with the statue for Reach. This is totally unnecessary, but besides the point. But that game had the coolest packaging I have ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, it seriously looks like I got a Spec Ops package in the mail.
It's cool.
It's incredible.
It's cool. I can see it from here. Halo 4 has really dumb cover. They're just dumb. They all just look dumb.
I'm gonna have to review these, and we're gonna have to touch on this again, even though it's not really a co-op thing. Yeah. We still, this is still part retrospective, still part sort of wandering.
We told you this one was going to be weird.
Yeah,
and it is weird. But come back next week, and it'll be a different experience. But hopefully this gets you. Okay. Final thoughts on Halo trilogy, Halo Real trilogy.
It was for me probably one of the most defining games of my video game playing history. It's the one I've probably gone back to most and replayed, especially Halo 1.
Interestingly enough, I mean, I would agree with that. as far as series go, I would probably put Halo in my top 10. But I feel like we kind of
We bashed.
Yeah, we
bashed Halo
we
pretty hard
bashed a little
today.
bit.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like we both would agree. If you asked us if we loved Halo, we would both say yes. I mean, we genuinely love it.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of really negative things to say about that.
You know, we hold it to a really high standard. And in some areas they try things out or they fail in some areas, whether it's an experiment or whether it's just it didn't work or whatever. It falls short sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's some of what we're covering here. But we did also mention a lot of great things about the
Right.
games.
I think at the time, in context, Halo 1 was great. I think Halo 2 was pretty great.
It was a great successor.
Yes. I thought Halo 3 was pretty bad. Even at the time, I didn't love Halo 3's single player. But I think now in retrospect, and we'll talk about this a little more next week, we haven't even talked about the best Halo game yet.
No.
So now
And
all those
we
other
both
things.
agree on this,
Yes.
I think.
So now they both sort of pale in comparison. So when we look back, it's like, wow, oh, you know what? Halo 2 was pretty good, but it wasn't good as Reach.
No.
So that'll be a good topic to talk about next week.
We have a lot to say about ODST.
Yeah, we do actually.
Which I think, in an average Halo retrospective, I don't think you'd get so much.
No, because I love ODST.
I think for us personally, it's a favorite.
It's my second favorite after Reach. I would say.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it there. This is the end of episode 1. We do. I guess I'm not ending it there. You're gonna need to edit this up a little bit.
Not gonna do it.
If anybody listens to this, we want to know. We want to hear from you. Drop us a line. All the contact information will be on our website. We want to hear from you. Suggestions, comments,
And if you don't
anything.
think we're awful, tell a friend.
Yeah, and pass us on if you have promotion ideas. We'd love to hear it.
Yes.
So, in conclusion, we'll see you next time.
Peace. I'm sorry.
Um,
I'm sorry.
It was the pillow. The pillow fell.
Oh my god, that scared the crap out of me. I thought your house was possessed.
My house is not possessed.
No. Okay, I'm gonna put this pillow right here.
Okay, that's good.
All right. Crisis averted, guys.
Yeah. All right. Is there a bird in my apartment? That sounded like a crow was in my room.
That sounded kind of scary.
What was that?
This place is haunted as shit, man.
Probably is.
I know, I'm creeped out.
People, there's crows here. Watch yourself.
Watch yourself. There's crows in your car too. Watch out.
This is gonna get so edited.
Yeah.
Um.
Or is it? It is.